Good morning, my fellow treasure hunters and explorers. Today's video is going to go over the known technologies for treasure hunters today. We're going to talk about the old standbys for treasure hunting, the known technology, some of the controversial technology, and then the high technology, the high tech that's come out in the recent years. And of course, the newer technology is expensive and kind of prohibitive for some of us. Every one of these technologies has its place in your arsenal if you can afford to acquire it. Anyway, we're going to go over metal detectors, the traditional metal detectors, of which there are two different types. There's the magnetometer types, which look for ferrous metals, high frequency metal detectors that detect the electrical current, and also some of these do both high frequency and low frequency detection. And there's the deep seekers, which are the two box type detectors that usually do not detect small objects, but will detect large metal objects down many feet in the ground. Then there are the different types of magnetometers, and they have handheld, and there's drone operated. Then there's the LiDAR technology, which traditionally was used from a large aircraft, from a helicopter or an airplane, and now has come down to be operated by larger drones. The technology of thermal imaging that is now can be attached to drones, thermal cameras. We have handheld thermal imaging. GPR technology has been around for a while. It's typically been pushed on a lawnmower type wheeled little vehicle, really powerful. They have technology that they can follow the terrain in the ground and stay a specific height above the ground so that the readings are accurate. And we have some continuity type technology, such as the EasyRes Pro, that you're placing probes in the ground and then you're checking the continuity between the different probes as it travels through the ground. And this can tell you about voids or about metal deposits or anomalies that are inside the ground. Of course, with all these technologies, there are advantages and disadvantages. One of the big disadvantages to a lot of this technology, as it first came out, was related to, where it relates to treasure hunting, is the very rugged, remote, and vast areas in which some of these mining activities, these treasure hunting activities, seem to be centered around the old Spanish mines, the old cache sites, the old stagecoach robberies that were committed by the outlaws. And inevitably, every single one of these types of treasure sites are in rugged, remote country. And this makes it very difficult to get some of these technologies into the field. And so once these technologies were able to be mounted on drones and get up off the ground, this technology became very attractive to treasure hunting and to treasure hunters. We're going to talk a little bit about dowsing, and both the controversial side of it as well as a possible scientific side of it. I'm going to talk about some things that not too many people know or understand, and that is the different auras, or the prism light that's put off by certain types of metal ions when the sunlight hits it just right. Treasure hunters have used Polaroid type cameras to detect these type of things for years now. There are two different types of metal detectors. There's the ferrous type metal detectors, sometimes referred to as the magnetometer type. This type of detector responds to metals that are magnetic. This type of detector sees disruptions in the magnetic field caused by the presence of magnetic metals. If you've ever tried to use a compass near a vehicle or a structure with a lot of metal or iron, you know a little about how this interferes with its accuracy. A powerful magnetometer can measure small magnetic interference from quite a distance away. A common question might be, how could this help a treasure hunter? The Spanish have a saying that gold rides an iron horse. One of the most successful methods of locating a mine with precious metal, especially gold, is to find an iron-bearing deposit, sometimes called an outcropping or a gossan. The same processes that deposit the iron are responsible for introducing possible precious metals. Treasure is often found in relation to battlefield sites. Caches, tools, or other metal objects, and sometimes gold or silver ore. Several of the old treasure stories I am familiar with talk about mines or pits covered with an iron door, or doors made of wood and iron spikes. I think you can see the possibilities here. Another prevalent treasure story tells of gold bars contained in iron boxes. Ancient bars of gold or silver bullion almost certainly contain a percentage of impurities, particularly bullion which was processed in the field in crude arastas and smelters. Oftentimes, not all the smelted bullion could be transported to the major cities or ports, and portions had to be cached until another pack train arrived, or until the next season if winter came early a particular year. Gold and silver bullion arriving in the cities and ports were certainly reprocessed, refined, and molded into higher purity and heavier bars for shipping. In the field they did the best they could, which included marking the owner's mark and legal identities, but it was only during the reprocessing that the king's fifth, or quinto, was removed so the highest purity could be achieved. The king wanted to have his percentage of the highest purity possible, so that's why he took his percentage out during the final processing. Then the bars were remarked with the owner's marks, the taxation stamps showing that the fifth had been paid or removed. There was also other marks on these bars, like the assayer's mark to identify who the assayer was, as well as the percentage of purity and the year or date of which the processing and where it took place. Sometimes gold or silver ore was so high purity it wasn't processed in the field, but shipped as ore. An example of this is in the recorded case of the Josephine de Martinique of the Henry Mountains, where extensive records in Seville, Spain, record the gold purity that came from this mine. Wolverton, an explorer who looked for the Josephine in the Henry Mountains, recorded finding ore along the trail from the Henrys to the Spanish Bottoms, where the crossing of the Colorado took place. Some of this ore that he discovered was nearly pure gold. It was from some of this discovered ore that I believe he was able to finance his search for the Josephine, build the amazing and ingenuitive Wolverton Mill. This mill was a marvel of ingenuity, and it was in the Henry Mountains for many years until the BLM moved it to Hanksville, Utah. If you're ever in Hanksville, Utah, I would encourage you to go visit this amazing mill design. It was an arasta, and it was run by a giant water mill. Amazing. There's the arresta, one of the original drag stones. Wow. What a marvel. Human engineering. The second type of metal detector is the high and low frequency detectors that detect electric currency flow or disruption in that flow.
4 inches.
Gold, silver, copper, and other noble metals, along with all ferrous metals, which are not all ferrous metals that are conductive to electricity or electric current, will interfere with this transmission of this electric current through the ground. The detector creates an electric current around the circular coil, and any metal that comes in contact with this field causes a disturbance that is interrupted by the reaction and creates a hum or beep so the operator can investigate the machine's response. These types of detectors are limited by the depth of the current field. The larger the target or the larger the coil, the deeper the detector will detect. There are also two-box detectors in this category that create a very large and powerful electric field. They are tuned for maximum depth and size. As such, they can overlook small targets. This type of detector should be used when looking for very large targets. Large targets can be detected up to a depth of 10 feet in good conditions. If you are generally detecting an area, you should search with a regular detector first to avoid missing small but valuable targets such as gold or silver coins. Then search with a larger two-box detector for larger caches that are down deep, say a buried cannon that might be 4 feet down. At this point, talking about treasure hunting technology, I want to talk about dowsing. I want to slip it in here between the higher technology because I believe in its purest form it is operated on the scientific principles that I just discussed with these two types of metal detectors.
I've already played this game. This is where the gold cache is.
Underneath or?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's in a vault. There's a vault over here.
That's the mine right there.
This is your platinum.
Platinum mine.
No copper. There's your silver.
I agree with Michael Fersick in his book, The Art of Dowsing, that pure dowsing operates on the principles of detecting or reacting to magnetic fields or disturbances. A little later, when we get into the discussion on auras, or light wavelength, reflecting off metal ions and creating prismatic light in a spectrum visible to the human eye, this will give us some further clues into this scientific method. An experienced dowser with the right equipment is detecting these frequencies, either put off by the metallic ions which disrupt the magnetic field, or that reflect these ions which interfere. You're operating on a much more sensitive basis, and the electronic circuitry in your body is actually working upon these principles and reacting to the dowsing rod. So it's actually creating a circuit. Your body and the dowsing rod is creating a circuit or a compass that can be acted upon or interfered with, and an experienced dowser knows how to interpret what these things mean through experience. there is actually a mathematic formula for how this works. Now, there is also the type of dowsing that is purely supernatural, or should we say, in the range of ESP, which is extrasensory perception. Does ESP exist? Ask the U.S. government. They have spent billions of dollars researching the topic. They have a division that engages in what's called remote viewing, ESP dowsing, map dowsing, and trained mediums. Many humans obviously have abilities beyond what we understand. This type of activity has been responsible for finding missing persons, locating weapons caches, enemy positions, and historical events. I don't know how it works, but in many instances it has worked, and many smart and intelligent scientists swear by it. My personal belief in messing with the supernatural is that things don't always turn out how you intend, and the forces you're trying to use could be evil or nefarious manifestations. So until I understand further about this, I don't really feel like delving into this realm. The next type of technology I want to talk about is called thermal imaging. Thermal imaging technology was developed to see and highlight objects that are in different temperature ranges. It utilizes infrared light to detect heat emissions from various objects. This process converts infrared energy that is invisible to the human eye into a visible light through a program and color schemes on a display screen. IR energy, or thermal energy, is emitted by all objects above absolute zero temperature. Thermal imaging is used by many industries to find potential problems with overheating parts, operation anomalies, and efficiencies. It can be used to determine where heating or cooling problems with your house occur. It can be used for determining the temperature of swimming pools or hot tubs. It's been used by the military to find enemy combatants. And even more recently, thermal imaging technology has been made smaller so that it can be used on drones to locate mineral outcroppings, old mines and caves, buried objects, and lost or missing people and animals. Properly used in the right conditions and times of day, it can be a very powerful tool for miners and treasure hunters. Earlier, I discussed one type of metal detector that fell into the magnetic field detector. These types of magnetometers can be created to be very powerful and sensitive, which makes them ideal to attach to drones and survey rough or difficult terrain or any terrain quickly and accurately. While powerful, these detectors have their limitations. They must operate within their range. This means they must be close to the ground surface to go as deep as possible. If there are large rock fields or tall trees, a drone-operated magnetometer will probably not be very effective. On the other hand, open fields, lakes and meadows, farmland, barren desert, and other flat surfaces could be ideal areas for using a magnetometer to discover iron outcroppings, large targets like a buried car, old ruins, or items of historical significance. Anything that interrupts or interferes with the magnetic field. If the magnetometer can get close enough, it will be able to detect them and show that on the survey. The next technology I want to talk about has been around for a while. It's called LiDAR. Acronym for Laser Imaging Detection and Ranging is LiDAR. LiDAR has terrestrial, water, and airborne applications. LiDAR is used to make high-resolution maps for surveying, locating archaeological sites, forestry surveys, Earth's surface and ocean bottom mapping and anomalies. Computers can detect and erase different objects such as vegetation, trees, and water to identify what is beneath these things. Millions of reflected points of laser light bounce back and forth to create a picture of the surfaces beneath. Once used only from large buildings, ships, or aircraft, microtechnology has allowed the development of micro LiDAR that can now be used from light aircraft, small boats, and drones. While still quite expensive to acquire and use, LiDAR can reveal things that other technology and detectors cannot. It's especially valuable for viewing landscapes, finding old building sites, ruins and trails, sinkholes, human-caused disturbances, and geological anomalies. The next technology is GPR, ground penetrating radar. Ground penetrating radar is a geophysical method that uses radar pulses that are sent into the ground to take an image of subsurface objects. It uses electromagnetic radiation in the microwave band of UHF and VHF frequencies. That's in the radio spectrum. These signals are sent into the ground and detect the reflected signals from subsurface structures to show anomalies, objects, material properties, and voids. It takes a good computer program and a knowledgeable person to be able to interpret what these things are in the readings. GPR has traditionally been used on a wheeled lawnmower type vehicle pushed over the surface of the ground. The latest technology has developed drone use with GPR that makes surveying difficult and dangerous ground possible. It is not as powerful or accurate as ground-operated GPR because it's operating above the ground, and there's static or noise that can be created from this airspace, and the lesser depth achievement than that which is directly on the surface of the ground. GPR on a drone is limited by close ground distance, so areas of rough rocky terrain and tree-covered slopes are not good subjects for the use of this technology. So once again, just like with a lot of these other technologies, even smooth terrain is really needed to do a good job. The next type of technology that we can use to find treasure or to find anomalies or valuable mineral outcroppings is called, I like to call them auras. The scientific term for these auras are surface plasmon polaritions. Surface plasmon polaritions. Basically, surface plasmon polaritions are ultraviolet rays of the sun reflecting off the surface plasmon polaritions of metals being radiated off the surface or near surface of certain types of metal. Gold, silver, cotton, platinum, etc. The noble metals are particularly susceptible to this type of radiation. This type of radiation, it reflects off of the ultraviolet rays and becomes visible to the human eye under certain conditions. Because ultraviolet light cannot penetrate the surface of these metals, the reaction of the light penetrating off the metal ions causes a prismatic effect that can sometimes be seen with the naked eye. And this is the thing that we call an aura or a prism. This effect can be magnified using certain types of camera lenses or filters, especially from a drone. Older Polaroid cameras, which are polarized type of light, can also magnify this effect. Sometimes certain Google Earth photos can capture this effect and reveal these outcroppings, veins, or possible caches that cause this phenomenon. And so, researching Google Earth, sometimes you will find these things and wonder what they are, this prismatic effect. And usually it's these ions reflecting off this ultraviolet light and becoming a visible light spectrum. So it's well worth checking out and seeing what's there. I expect in the near future some absolutely spectacular discoveries to be made with the application of these emerging technologies. We are on the verge of many different interesting and exciting discoveries amongst our own group. We have mines that are being opened up right now, cache sites that are being looked at, and we have a lot of different technologies that we're applying to older sites that we have researched but not been able to put this technology over the top. So it's always good that once you've done everything you can exploring on your own, to get out there and use this new technology on these old sites. Anyway, I hope you've learned something from this technology and from some of the things that are coming in the future. And this is very valuable in treasure hunting. We have access to some of these technologies, and if you're interested in something like that, you can get a hold of me through my website or through my email that's listed in the information below. All right, well, thank you and have a great day.